The Bostonian is Matt Perrault.
This is our city.
The book is Dave Sharapan.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
Together, they are the Bostonian versus the book.
You covered 12. I covered!
Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the book.
How do you like them apples?
Bringing you the best insight on sports betting news, Matt and Dave's daily picks, and an entertaining and unfiltered dive into the sports betting industry. Here's Dave Sharapan and Matt Perrault.
And here we go.
What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into a Monday, August the 11th episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Perrault. We are live on our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book, and the same on X Twitter at Boston versus the Book. Back after our trip across the pond. Good to be stateside. If I sound, look, or just am off today, you have to apologize because I have been traveling for a ridiculous amount of time yesterday. It was a much longer trek than I had hoped it to be. We got back really late last night. I'm operating on like 4 hours of sleep. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning because not only did I get on East Coast time, I then got on Scotland time, which is 5 hours ahead of East Coast time, 8 hours from Las Vegas time. So like right now it's 10 o'clock on the West Coast in the morning, 1 p.m. on the East. Well, to me, we're currently dealing with like a dinner time type of deal for me. So I'm trying to keep myself awake and trying to power through and going to sleep tonight. Hopefully kind of resets the entire clock, but just understand what we're dealing with here from I may look like I'm a ragged old doll. I may sound like I'm all over the place. I may make some mispronunciations or other issues or some just basic mistakes today. So apologies ahead of time for any of that. Good show lined up for you guys here today. Jeff Edelstein's going to join us from in-game. We're going to talk about the NFL and the ESPN merger. ESPN Bet is sitting right there. Is this the catalyst, or is Katie Nolan right? Katie Nolan and others who are sick of the inundation of gambling in everything, believing that the red zone is now going to become unwatchable. I actually think the red zone was designed for fantasy football players, so I'm not really sure why, if it's a gambling angle, why that would ruin the red zone, but there's a lot of people out there who are very concerned about what the NFL, ESPN, and more importantly, what will ESPN Bet look like as well. So we'll get to Jeff coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. So hang around for that opening line here in just 1 second. But before we do either of those things, let me just tell you quickly about the trip to Scotland, because it was life-altering for me. It was such an incredible 7 days. And I come back with just an incredible appreciation for the country, for the UK. My first time going to the UK, the left-hand picture on your screen, that is me at Oasis. The end, the last night, the finale of the show, of the trip. I'll tell you more about the Oasis concert here in just 1 second. And the right, well, obviously the most famous bridge in all of golf there on the 18th. You can literally walk up onto that bridge while people are playing. There are streets that cut across the 18th fairway at the Old Course at St. Andrews. There's cars going back and forth. Like, they take golf into a totally different realm. Like, we are so uppity when it comes to golf. We are so snooty when it comes to the game. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable to go and watch and be like, wait, I can walk out there. The caddies were like, yeah, go ahead. Go take a picture. We're just playing golf. That's all we're doing. Go ahead. Unreal. Like, try walking onto Augusta National on, like, Amen Corner to go and say, hey, I just want to take a picture. Can I walk to Amen Corner and take a picture right here? Is that all right? I want a picture of me in the magnolia trees. You get arrested. There? Nobody cares. Like, I got video of a car going across the 18th fairway while there's players on the green and there's guys teeing off. One of the more remarkable experiences of my entire life, to go to St. Andrews and to watch the way they look at the game And whether that's the birthplace of golf, people were arguing with me saying, well, actually, that's not the birthplace of golf. They kind of stole that. It's actually a little bit further down in Scotland and where they actually started the game of golf, but whatever. It's known as the birthplace of golf. That bridge is super famous. Everyone takes their pictures on it, and I love they got a chance to go out there and check it out. The Oasis concert, for those of you who care, was ridiculous. The first time I saw Oasis was in March of 1995. Saw them 2 days ago in August of 2025. Like, that is an unbelievable stretch. And the fact that Oasis has not put out any new music for decades, the fact that they pulled the way they pulled to that concert with 70,000 people for 3 shows in Edinburgh. According to the band, they talked about it on stage. They brought in $2 billion for those 3 shows to the country of Scotland in Edinburgh. Now, they played Edinburgh because that's where they broke up way back when. That was the last show they played, was the Edinburgh show, and then they broke up. So that's why they went back to Scotland, which is a pretty small city. Edinburgh is only 500,000 people. It's a pretty small city. Gorgeous city. But the energy in that building was unlike anything I've ever been a part of. I've been at really cool concerts. I've had some very cool experiences thanks to my radio days, and I've met some very famous people and been at some very famous concerts. The Eras Tour was the last time I felt like, okay, the crowd knows something that even the artist cannot explain as to what's going on. That was that Oasis show, and I don't know if it's going to be the same here in America, but that was the Eras Tour for 45-year-old white men. Like, that was our version of the Eras Tour to go over there. I'm 48, but that was, every single song was at full throat, every note, every lyric. There were people 7 miles away from the Scottish Gas Murrayfield Stadium, what they call it. Murrayfield Stadium. It's a rugby stadium. 7 miles away that could hear us singing. And I was right there with everybody. It wasn't just the big hits, though. It was the songs that I have known for the better part of 30 years. But in America, nobody knows. Some people like it, but they don't get into it the way these people got into it. It was a religious experience for me. That concert was, I can't even fully digest everything I experienced during those 2.5 hours. How amazing a moment that was to be over there, to be a part of that. And I don't think the concerts here in America are going to replicate it, because I don't think the band has the same significance in America that it does in the UK. That was a football game, an American football game. I went there wearing a Jamaican zip-up, soccer zip-up, and a BVB hat, okay? If you look at what I'm wearing, I am standing out like a sore thumb, okay? It's me and the security guys. Those are the other people. Everyone was in blue, black, or white, which is like the national colors of the UK. And every single person, basically, they all were wearing Oasis gear. Like, in America, you wear the band, like you wear this t-shirt to an Oasis concert, that's like uncool. That's like not you don't wear a Springsteen t-shirt to a Springsteen show. You don't do that. Everybody, it was a cult-like experience. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, zip-ups, everyone. Every single person with Oasis gear on. It was weird if you did not have Oasis gear on. I did not have Oasis gear on. None of it. I stood out. They knew I was an American. They're like, where are you from? I'm like, Las Vegas. Like, really? People were awesome. Show was incredible. Unbelievable moment. Awesome, awesome, awesome experience to be over there. And if you have a chance to watch the shows or go to the shows here in America, I'm not saying don't go, but I don't think they're going to be the same. I don't think the energy will be the same. I don't think the level of enthusiasm will be the same, just because Oasis is the national band of the UK. And when I picked them up in my junior year into my senior year of high school in 94 into 95, and seeing them in March of 95, then again in 96, and again in 99. And then I kind of drifted from Oasis a bit. I still have listened to them my entire life, but I didn't see them again until now, until 2025. But they sounded amazing. The brothers got along. Noel Gallagher, one of the brothers, in case you don't know who they are, Liam's the lead singer, and Noel writes the songs. Liam was crying during a song called Talk Tonight. The B-sides, if you know Oasis, the B-sides albums are the best songs for Oasis. They played almost all of them that I wanted to hear. And every single person, from the very young to the very old, everyone was in full unison for 2.5 hours for that concert. So worth it, 100% worth it. The trip, I'll talk about it again, probably later on when we have a slower day. I'll get into some of the things that we did, some of the things that I saw, some of the big differences. Maybe in bonus time, I'll do it today a bit, but some big differences between America and the UK that I kind of wish we were more like them in some ways and other ways not, but we'll do more of that a little bit later on. For now, let's start the talk of the sports with the opening line. All right. Opening line. This is a major, major, major story. The UFC is going to be now shown on Paramount. Paramount is giving the UFC $7.7 billion. And the declaration that came along with this is that the pay-per-view model is now dead for UFC events. You will pay for a single subscription to Paramount to watch the UFC. All of it. The Contender Series, fight nights, numbered events, it's all going to be in the United States on Paramount. Now, if you're in Canada, if you're in Brazil, if you're in the UK, I don't know. There could be a secondary deal coming for the UFC. But Dana White has announced pay-per-view is a thing of the past. And now, if you have a Paramount Plus subscription, you're going to be able to watch the UFC starting here in 2026. This topic is wild to me for a variety of reasons, but it is now pretty clear that Jake Paul is right about something finally. He's right about the fact that we now have a crystal clear idea of what the denomination is for the UFC when it comes to what they're making. This is from the UFC's own release. Okay, this is Jake Paul. Every fighter in the UFC now has a clear picture of what the revenue is. No more pay-per-view excuses. Get your worth, boys and girls. He's 100% right. And you don't hear that from me very often when it comes to Jake Paul. The release. This is from the UFC's own press release. The 7-year term, which begins in 26, has an average annual value of $1.1 billion. The contract payment scheduled is weighted more towards the back end of the deal, which the UFC has been notorious, infamous for fighting unionization of their fighters at every single step. They do not want their fighters to have a unified voice. The UFC is a billion-dollar entity. It already was, but we didn't know about it because every event was pay-per-view. So you were given pay-per-view points if you were one of the headliners. What if you were fighting on an early prelim? What if you were fighting on a prelim? How much money were you actually making? By all accounts, and I've done a lot of research on this, by all accounts, the median average income per year for a UFC fighter under contract is $51,000. But 43% of the roster, according to one report, make less than $45,000 a year. These are dangerous, dangerous ways to make a living. You're talking about broken orbital bones. You're talking about broken everything. And that's just in practice. Forget about it in terms of when it happens in the arena, when it happens in the octagon. Well, then the UFC is going to take care of you. But if you get hurt in practice, not their fault, not their problem. If you don't have health insurance, not your fault or not their fault. It's your problem. This is now, and I don't know how they do it. I don't know when they do it. I don't know what way they do it. But the fact that we have a $7.7 billion deal now on the table that is now signed, the UFC has got to compensate its fighters more. There has to be a minimum. We know how much the minimum is in the NBA. We know how much the minimum is for the NFL We know what these athletes are making. Just if you're in the NHL, if you're in Major League Baseball, here is your minimum salary of what you're going to make when you are a signed athlete, right? It can't be $51,000. It just can't be. I know the UFC is trying to make as much money as possible for its investors. I know it's a publicly traded company. I get all of that. I get Endeavor. I get how it all structured out and how they've taken things and they've moved things around. I think Endeavor no longer is publicly traded, right? So that's okay. They're privately traded now. But this is just the U.S. portion of this, by the way. Like, there's going to be an international portion of this as well. And I hate to give Jake Paul credit, but Jake Paul's right. I mean, yes. Get your worth. Get your worth. There's no more excuses for compensation. I have met too many fighters here in Las Vegas, too many fighters signed to the UFC who were living in one-bedroom apartments, who are working 2 jobs on the side as well as training. I don't care if they're just no-name fighters or they're just card fillers or whatever it might be. This is a lot of money. 7.7 billion, 1.1 billion a year. A year. It's going to be more than that when it's all said and done. That's not merchandise. That's not ticket sales. That's just to watch the thing on a platform. They're getting 1.1 billion average annual value in just the United States. They love it over in the UK. I was over there. I saw how TNT pushed it. I saw how ESPN pushed it. The UFC is a massive global brand. They're getting 1.1 billion in just the US market. It's time for people to start to pay attention to this, because we talk about compensation a lot and lockouts and all these different things because unions give support. But the lowest, smallest paid fighter for the UFC, I have met somebody who made $5,000 to fight on a UFC pay-per-view card. Now, it was the early prelims, but they get $5K to show, $5K to win. And they train for 3 to 4 months. They're waiters or waitresses. They're out there making their living doing something else. And no one is looking out for them. No one is talking about them because all we talk about is the big guys, the John Joneses of the world, the Conor McGregors, right? The big headliners, the fighters that make all the money for the company. But that's why you have unions. That's why you do union. And the UFC, there's been attempts to unionize fighters, and it always dies for a variety of reasons, but it always dies because they can't get on the same page for what their worth is. But somebody, and if it's Jake Paul, so be it. But somebody's got to figure that out, because that's an insane amount of money, an absolute insane amount of money. One more piece of this before we talk about ESPN and the NFL with Jeff Edelstein here in just 1 second. It is funny because Paramount is where Bellator failed. I mean, remember, Paramount has tried their hand. CBS has tried their hand in this before. Yet it's a return to Spike TV and the Ultimate Fighter days, where my boxing coach, rest his soul, Stephan Bonner, saved the company, saved the UFC with his fight against Forrest Whitaker. Without that fight, without that unbelievable brawl between two warriors, the company probably isn't making $7.7 billion over 7 years without that fight, because the company was going to go belly up. That was on Spike. That was on Paramount, basically. That was when cable ruled. But Bellator did not work. And you have to wonder, ESPN gave so much legitimacy to the sports world, the MMA world, because they talked about it all the time. They covered it. They sent full fight crews out to cover it, to do a ton of productions beyond just being on SportsCenter. All the things that ESPN did for ESPN Plus and everything else. You got to wonder about the future of ESPN Plus, by the way. But that is a very interesting question that we won't know for a while. Does Paramount work for fight fans? It will for the big fights. But a lot of fighters, including a lot of fight fans, including myself, would just stumble upon an ESPN card and watch it all the time because it was easy. It was right there in front of us, especially with the early prelims and the prelims, ESPN2, ESPN News, whatever it was. Will they do the same thing for Paramount? Because how many people actually have a Paramount subscription? I don't know. I don't know. Final point. They say the pay-per-view model is dead. The model is dead until people don't pay to watch the UFC. And if that happens, they will start to charge for pay-per-view events. That's how it comes back. It works right now. It looks good right now until the ROI doesn't work for a publicly traded company like CBS and Paramount. So for right now, it works. Long term, jury is 100% still out on all of this. All right, let's talk about what's going on with ESPN on another front. They are involved now heavily with the NFL. They are taking over the media properties for the NFL. And Jeff Edelstein of In Game, how the NFL just became ESPN Bet's ace in the hole. Will this work? Well, let's talk to Jeff here on the Bostonian versus the book. Jeff, Matt Perrault, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's just refresh this because I was off when it broke and people might not have a full idea of this. ESPN and the NFL essentially are forming a partnership, right? The NFL is taking a piece of ESPN and the NFL is giving ESPN all of their media rights, including Red Zone, correct?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
So the big piece and why we care about this is ESPN Bet and how that factors into all of this.
Yeah.
Is there a definitive idea as to how they're going to incorporate ESPN Bet, or are we just going to figure it out as we go?
Yeah, nobody's saying anything if they know. I mean, what we've been hearing from day one, which was 18 months or so ago, which is about 37 years in sportsbook time, was that ESPN and ESPN Bet, everything was going to be, puzzled together and it's going to be seamless and this and that and the other. That obviously hasn't happened. ESPN Bet was hoping for 20% market share at the top end. They're nowhere close. They have like 2% market share. Now a few things, right? They're that 3-year period where either side can pull out of this deal comes up, I think in October of next year, right? This year, you're not going to see any changes in Red Zone from what I understand. Everything's going to be branded the same way. It's next year when you're going to see changes. So as if, and it's a pretty big if, ESPN and Penn Gaming decide to see this through for another year or 2 or 7, I would expect we're going to see a different. I would expect to see that integration because this is the final, last, best hope for ESPN Bet to carve out its market. If this doesn't work, if you can't go from 2% to 5, 6, 8, 12, 15% market share when you have quite literally the biggest sports Goliath in America, probably the world, hyping you. I don't know that there's nothing left to do.
Jeff, we've seen people like Katie Nolan who have been, pretty outspoken about the idea that she thinks the Red Zone is going to be turned into a sports gambling channel, that it's just going to be nothing but ESPN Bet every time. Not this year, obviously, but next year. The NFL is still the one producing the Red Zone. It's just going to be carried now on ESPN platforms. Do you think that's fair to say that it's going to be just a straight ad? Because in all reality, the reason why the Red Zone exists is for fantasy football players. Gamblers are the same, but prop betting and whatnot. The origin of that channel was geared towards gamification, was it not?
I don't. Why would anyone want to spend 7 hours snorting crack cocaine? I mean, yeah, you're yes. If you're only watching Red Zone, if you have skin in the game on a fantasy. If you're a football fan, you're not getting anything out of Red Zone. You know what I mean? You're a gambler. You're a fantasy player. That's why you're watching Red Zone. I can remember, and talk about aging myself, going back. So I grew up in North Jersey, and we had this channel called Sports Channel. It was the Mets cable, right? And when the Mets weren't on, and after the Mets season was over, on Sports Channel, and this is like 87, 88, they would have a blue screen, and there'd be somebody sitting behind a desk somewhere typing. Mike Quick, M-I-K-E space Q-U-I-C-K space 82YD space touchdown. And me and my friends and my fans go, look, we'd be watching this in my family room, going nuts, watching teletype. So yes, that's Red Zone, right? That's all it is. It's just telling you who's scoring when. So it's built for gamblers, whether or not like anyone wants to admit that or not. And so if I'm going to have Red Zone through ESPN and it's a seamless, listen, if it's not seamless, then everyone should be fired. I should be if I'm watching Red Zone on my phone, I should be able to one tap click to ESPN Bet, right? If I'm watching it on my TV, I should be able to, QR code it right to ESPN Bet. I mean, if they're not doing that, it's what are they even? Why are they wasting time at this point? So I don't know. I'm not worried. The hand wringing and the pearl clutching over the NFL Red Zone turning into a gambling channel is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it should be changed over to a gambling channel. Frankly,
it is, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I love Scott Hansen, but I do think that they often suffer from some pretty obvious talking points because they don't know gambling and they don't know the significance of certain things that are happening. And so when you have a game that's coming down to the wire, great, it's awesome. But when it's a 55-10 blowout, and you're wondering about, different player props or different things that happen in the second half number or whatever it might be coming into, that's where I think you do need somebody there to talk about gaming, talk about betting, talk about fantasy, talk about what's happening. I think the Red Zone, even though it's tremendous, has missed out on those types of things when the games aren't spectacular and they aren't great. What I'm curious about, and you talk about integration, who's in charge of making that happen? Because ESPN has their money from Penn, do they not? I mean, they want it to keep going, but is there any massive incentivization of ESPN to make sure the integration works?
I guess not. I mean, well, let's see if they decide to keep going forward with this. I mean, they could pull the plug on this, and this is all a moot point, which wouldn't surprise me because, exactly. What's ESPN gaining from this at this point? I guess in the end, what they have to gain from it is more eyeballs, because I mean, if ESPN Bet could become a poll, a bronze level sports book in America, I'm sure it'll be good for the bottom line. It'll be good for eyeballs. It'll be good for ad sales. It'll be good for everything else. But, limping along at 2% is not going to get it done.
Jeff, I was over in Scotland and, I'm driving I'm in a relatively mid-sized city in Edinburgh, but I mean, there's William Hill, there's Ladbroke, there's bar, book, it's part of the culture over there. And I know the pitfalls that Europe has run into when it comes to gaming and gambling that America is trying to pay attention to and trying to not have the same problems that it popped in. But do you think any regulatory body, any state gaming commission is going to be watching this closely and trying to figure out, okay, are we going to have a problem with, because Massachusetts has been famously watching ESPN for certain segments that they have done. Anybody gonna raise a red flag here if it gets to be too much on the gambling side?
Of course. I mean, that's what these regulatory bodies, if you don't do that, you're not getting paid. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always going to be something. The point you make, though, about England, from what I understand, I haven't seen it firsthand, but from what I gather, it's part of the culture. But generally speaking, it's like I shouldn't say no one, but we'll speak in generalities. It's part of the culture in that, of course I'm going to put $20 on the Yankees tonight because that's just, I'll win, I'll lose, but it gives me a little bit more rooting interest. Where I think us newbies here in America don't look at sports betting as a way to, hey, I'll put $20 on the game, it'll, increase my interest. I'm thinking, well, if I build the 16-leg parlay, I could retire.
Yep. Yep. 100%. It's this expectation of success. It's this Hail Mary lottery ticket type of mentality that, and mostly from younger people that come in, because I think you're absolutely right. And I was talking to a couple of guys actually in line for the Oasis concert, and they bet every day. And it was like, it's not that big of a deal to them. It's just like, it's like buying a pint at a local pub. It's like, I'm spending £6 on that. I'll spend £10 on the game. It's just part of what they do. And there's not this expectation of, I must get something back from it. And I'm not going to get in trouble with it the same way I'm not going to drink too much. I'm not going to bet too much. So that was one of the more striking things, is just how accepted it is over there versus what we're dealing with here. And it struck me when I was reading your article and looking at some of the things that were being said, and I've read the comments from, different people on the internet. it really feels like folks think that this is like the end. This is state-run media. This is the end of their baby. This is like they've lost a family member over this because the NFL and ESPN are now in bed. Do you have any concerns that we're going to see some homogenization going on and not a lot of reporting or not a lot of negative coverage of the league?
I don't, honestly. I think people will end up loving it. I mean, and I look no further than how upset people were and are that the NBA on TNT, right? Like, and NBA does not equal NFL. TNT does not equal ESPN. But that became like a real part of like the universe, right?
Yeah.
They were synonymous really with each other. There's no reason why this can't happen that way as well. And again, in 5 years' time, we have, us humans, man, we got short-term memories. And in 5 or 6 years, this is just going to seem, as normal as NBA on TNT,
right.
like NFL on ESPN. It almost rolls off the tongue as easily, So yeah, I'm not worried about that. And Lord knows there's plenty of coverage outside of, you think they're going to tell Adam Schefter to cool it? I mean,
right.
And if they do, he'll go somewhere else, right?
Right.
The NFL is too big. It's like covering the stock market. Like you can't. There's always going to be someone like digging out details somewhere. I'm not
right.
I'm really
right.
mad.
Jeff, I'll get you out here on this topic. So we before I went on break, we talked a lot about what was happening with Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, about he wanted to ban all prop betting. They've now kind of recalibrated that a bit and said, okay, now we're going to talk about micro prop betting, which I actually am in favor of banning micro betting. But the Red Zone channel basically doesn't that kind of put a flag down a little bit as to where we are as a country when it comes to prop betting, that this is something that people very much want, and trying to outlaw it is probably not going to happen?
I mean, is there a better bet to make than touchdown score? I'm not kidding. Like, I mean, that's, that's where you play, you get a little long shot, but even like the favorites are a little bit of a long shot. And I mean, listen, if I'm sitting around watching the Red Zone channel, on a Sunday afternoon and the Bengals are driving and it pops up on my screen, Jamar Chase plus 400 to score the next Bengals touchdown, it's going to be hard not to say, $5. And, you do that 30, 40 times in the afternoon. It's, who knows what could happen. I don't know. The way America wants to bet, it's, listen, it's still so new. It's 7 years since PASPA, right? So for like the vast majority of Americans who are in sports betting streets, it's still so brand new to them. But it is, all the classic people, all the old timers, everyone who knows what they're talking about knows that what we're looking at is not what real sports betting is, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's what we kind of want. The recreational bettor. I could, spin my wheels, the Cubs, I have them as, minus 130, but I got them at minus 125. I'm betting this, I'm a pro. I just rather bet, on Paul Armstrong than hit a home run. It's a lot more fun that way,
PCA's been pretty profitable up to the last month where he's been ice cold, right? You can't get a hit now. He's got a problem for the Cubs. Are you a Giant or a Jet fan?
Well, I started playing fantasy football in 1986, so that was the end of that. But yeah,
there we go.
But push comes to shove, I'm rooting for the Giants. Neither team has been especially fun to root for the last, generation or so. But we're getting there.
I'll get you out here on this. Who was a better season, Jets or Giants?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the Giants. I think everyone likes to rip on Russell Wilson, but he'll know how to get the ball to neighbors, and he got this little 1-2 punch in the backfield. Good defense. I think the Giants. I think they could surprise, maybe even sniff 400 winning percentage,
which would be 7 wins, 6 wins,
around there, 6, 7. Yeah,
I
think that would be a success. Stable might stick
5.5 is prop is 5.5. Jeff, good stuff. Where can people read you? Where can they find all your stuff?
Check us out, ingame.com, casinoreports.com. Check out the podcast, Low Rollers. I'm a true low roller, and we talk about it every week.
Very cool. Jeff, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it, my man. We're going to get you on. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to talk about coming down the pike with everything happening. Thank you for coming on today.
You got it. Thank you.
That is Jeff Edelstein joining us from ingame.com, joining us on the Bostonian versus the book. Great to get him back on the program talking about what's happening with ESPN and just kind of put a bow on the ESPN bet thing, going with ESPN and going into what's happening with Penn. I mean, look, if I'm Penn, I have to see some movement soon. And this would be movement, right? This would be a massive opportunity to see growth, to see your investment pay off, because you're going to be exposed to so many people every single Sunday. And we know that Red Zone is ridiculously popular with the mobile crowd, folks that are on the run, folks that are watching on their phone and tablets because they can't watch the games. They just want to see how their team is doing. Not talking about their actual team. I'm talking about their fantasy team. They're talking about their, whether it be DFS or whether it be season long. And all people care about is what's happening to their own individual team and their own individual prop bets. So as Jeff was pointing out, if they can't make this work, they'll never be able to make this work. Like, this is so easy. This should be so seamless and so easy to integrate into the content that if they can't do it, then everyone should be fired. And they will be. Everybody will be out. So the NFL grabbing 10% of ESPN, that piece of it is a little bit unnerving, because now they have a piece of a news organization that is in charge of investigating them. So that's a little bit on the ick side, but it's the world we live in now. I mean, what is journalism when it comes to sports? We're living in the toy department. We're not doing real hardcore journalism. Sure, at one point in time with CTE, we were, and the next big expose will be on sports gambling and the problems that young men are having with it and the fact that athletes are addicted and all those things, that's going to happen. But every sport's got that problem. That's not an NFL problem. CTE is pretty much an NFL problem, maybe a little on the NHL, but pretty much it's a NFL football problem for CTE. Baseball doesn't have that problem. Basketball doesn't have that problem. So ESPN can go ahead and do all of those investigations and talk about sports betting with those leagues. And they have Jonte Porter, for example. So I'll be very curious to see what these next 18 months look like. But I am not in agreement with Katie Nolan that having sports gambling integration to the red zone is going to change it or make it worse. In fact, it's going to make it more entertaining if you do it the right way. If you hire the right people, you have the right people involved who understand what's happening, Dave Sherapan, for one thing, that type of person, to go and put that person next to Scott Hansen, to then tell him what's going on, to explain, hey, that number closed at this, look at that. Or here's what's happening in the in-game. Look at the numbers. It's up to this, to that. Having that type of person, a Stanford Steve, for example, next to Scott Van Pelt type. That's how you enhance that and make it even better. Where you're not telling people what to bet, you're just covering it. You're covering it as the game is going on. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to make Red Zone better, not worse, better. And I do think if they do it right, I think they could actually pull it off. Will they? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, Chef Benny, this is interesting. They'd be better off with a different gambling version than adding it to Red Zone. You've established the brand already. Like, you can't, this is what we've done with the secondary markets. Do you guys watch Pat McAfee on the sidelines? I love Pat. I love Pat and the boys. I never watch it. Why? Because it's fun once, but over and over again, I want to watch the game. So if I'm going to watch Red Zone for Red Zone, I want to watch the game. Give me Pat sprinkled in, right? Give me Pat as part of the broadcast. I don't need a whole separate Pat McAfee broadcast. That's the problem. I don't need the Manning cast. I need the Mannings during the game. Have them jump in key moments. Have them add something to halftime or postgame. Like, give me that. This whole idea of like splintering off and having multiple channels carrying multiple versions of the same game has failed. It doesn't work. Folks don't like it. I don't like it. It doesn't work. So to me, people want to watch the game. Okay. And Joe Myers, Sports Grid does an incredible job with in-game live. I'm paid by Sports Grid. I work almost every weekend for Sports Grid doing in-game live. Yes, but that's because we're doing a totally different thing. We're talking about everything in in-game live. Sure, if there's a Monday night football game or a Thursday night football game, we are primarily focused on that. But when Joe and Ari and I are doing Sundays on Sports Grid, we're talking about golf, basketball, baseball, talking about everything going on. That's your secondary screen experience to cover everything that's happening. And we highlight when there's something interesting going on. So when you're isolated to one game and the game sucks, that's your problem. The beauty of what Sports Grid can do is that the game stinks, you just pivot to the next game. you just pivot. Okay, that game stinks. Go to the next one or preview the next one, right? Hey, coming up at the top of the hour, we got, Atlanta taking on the Mets. Whatever you want to do. Hey, that line is it's minus $2. Now it's $2.50. There's always talking points and always things you can discuss about the games when you're not isolated to one game. The problem that the leagues are having, ESPN, all of these leagues, is that when you have a standalone game and the standalone game stinks, what do you do then? How do you keep people's attention? How do you get people to stay with you? That's the problem. That's where people really, really struggle when it comes to what if. When the game's good, it's easy. It all writes itself. But when the game's not good, the game's boring. Now, this is not really what happened last night. This is kind of like what happened while I was gone, but it does include last night. All right, what happened last night? And really, this happened after I left and I went to Scotland. The Yankees fell apart. Yankees lost another series. This time, the Houston Astros get them, and everybody in New York is furious. I'm in love with this. I talked about this, when I was in New Hampshire on this show. We talked about it. The Yankees were leaking oil even before the injury to Aaron Judge, even before injuries to their pitchers. They were having big problems just fielding the baseball, just doing simple things. They are so fundamentally unsound. Aaron Boone can get on the mic all he wants and say, "Let's go. I guarantee you we're making the playoffs." Well, I can guarantee you that Aaron Boone is fired if they don't. So not a bad thing to say if you're Aaron Boone, to go ahead and say, "We got it. We're going to turn it around." They are a half a game up on the Guardians for the third and final wild card spot. If they don't make the playoffs, there's going to be big changes in New York. Big changes coming for the Yankees. On the flip side, how about the Brewers? Milwaukee down to 10-1 to win it all. Do you remember when I said take it at 27-1? It's now down to 10-1, and they have a 6-game lead on the Chicago Cubs for the division. And look at the prices on this Brewers team. I mean, this is, they're the fourth choice. The Milwaukee Brewers. We talked about their pitching with Quintana. We talked about Mizorowski. We've talked about Perrault. We've talked about what Woodson brought back. I mean, this is, and it's a team that doesn't really have, Yelich is a great hitter, but they don't have like a superstar offensive weapon. They're just a collection of guys, to quote their manager. Dodgers, Phillies, Mariners are 10-1. This race, yes, the Dodgers are the team to beat, but in the American League, it is so wide open. 10-1, 11-1, 11-1 Tigers, 12-1 Blue Jays, Yankees 14-1, Red Sox 19-1. You can take shots at any one of those teams at the moment when it comes to who's going to win the World Series. I have a 10-1 ticket on the Astros, which you can get a much better price on them now. I guess not much better, 11-1. I have a 10-1 on the Astros, and I have a 27-1 on the Brewers. But I wouldn't mind. Look, the Red Sox are going to be a part of this. And depending on the draw they get, depending on what happens here, if the Blue Jays fall apart, the Blue Jays at 12-1 might not be great value, but they could present some value to make the World Series. And then you're just going to hedge off of it, right? They play the Dodgers. They're not going to be, Dodgers going to be 4-1, 5-1 favorites. At some point during the series, if it's 1-0 or 2-1 or somewhere along those lines, you're going to be able to get a great price and hedge off that 12-1. So there's a lot of value to bet the American League teams right now. There is a lot of value to jump in. To football. Shedeur Sanders played well for Cleveland. He could get a job in the league. What else are we talking about? This is the biggest story for August that I have seen in a long time. Yeah, his dad's famous. Yeah, the kid is brash. Yeah, the kid was supposed to go in the first round and he slipped all the way to the 5th round. All that's true. Yes, he played well in a preseason game. Who cares? Come on, guys. It's a preseason football game. It is as vanilla gets. Does the kid have talent? We know the kid has talent. Should he have been a 5th-round pick? No. Did everything around him cause him to fall to the 5th round? Yes. Is he responsible for that? Partly? Yes. Could he be a really good player? Yes. He's in the league. That's all that matters. Tom Brady was drafted, everyone in unison, right? 1, 2, 3, go Tom Brady statue, right? Okay. So it doesn't matter. Once you're in the league, you're in the league. But we're tripping and falling over ourselves over Shedeur Sanders in a little bit of a, can we just tap the brakes here a bit? Like, tap the brakes? It's the Browns. The Browns are going to be, if not one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they're trying to be, by the way. They are tanking for the quarterback from Texas. Will they get him? I don't know. But I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be much of a talking point besides a talk show host wanting to either stir up controversy or to get phone lines ringing or to get clicks and people to pay attention on social media. It was one game. It was one nice performance for a crap football team. Browns are going to stink. Do you know who else is going to stink? Sorry, Jeff. The Giants are going to stink. I love that people are finally coming around to the schedule. I've been talking about the schedule since May. I've been telling you guys the Giants' schedule is ridiculous. Ever since it came out, Giants are going to win 4 games. And if they start Jackson Dart game 1, massive mistake. If you're a Giant fan, you are praying that someone comes to their senses and says, hey, let's just start is Jackson Dart into this? I don't care what Jackson Dart looked like in his first games. Could he be a great quarterback? Sure. Could he develop? Of course. Do I think you should play him game 1? Absolutely not. Especially given the schedule for the Giants. I think they're going to stink. I think the Giants are going to be absolutely awful. I could be dead wrong. I think they're going to be awful. I think they're going to be in the conversation for the number 1 pick, personally. And I think they're okay with that, to be quite honest. Defense may be okay, but I think they're going to be a lot of games like the Patriots last year where they wind up losing like 13-10. Like they were in the game, they fought hard, they played well, but they'll just end up losing. And because of that, everyone gets fired and they just go ahead and clean house. And then they try to potentially land the quarterback out of Texas, Arch Manning, which everyone wants. But if it's not him, maybe Jackson Dart develops. And similar to the Patriots, where you get another coach to come in to coach him. Same way Vrabel's come in to coach a developing QB that could be very good. I always hesitate when I want to talk about him because it just feels like everybody is just like proclaiming that May is going to be tremendous for the Patriots. I think he's going to be good. I hope he's going to be good. I loved him in college. But maybe the Giants and Jackson Dart do something similar with that. And finally, Cam Little hit a 70-yard kick in preseason that doesn't count. 66 yards is the record in a game, in a real game. 70 yards is ridiculous. And the fact that it doesn't count sucks. The kicker for the Jaguars kicked a 70-yarder. A 70-yard kick. And it doesn't count. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. Like, how in the hell? Stinks for Cam Little. We'll see if that guy gets a shot in a regular season game to break the mark, the 66-yard mark of the longest kick in NFL history. 70 yards is 70 yards, man. That is a hell of a shot to kick it that far. Let's make some picks. All right, just the picks time for us. I've been doing quite well in Major League Baseball, but this pick you guys might hate. It's Garrett Crochet Day for the Red Sox. They have lost 2 games in a row. Huge series. Alex Bregman going back to Houston with the Red Sox. Carlos Correa now with the Houston Astros, returning out at the trade deadline to go play for the former team, the team he won championships with. Red Sox, Astros over 7.5. Red Sox hit lefties, but the Astros also hit lefties. I don't know how good Crochet will be today. I think he gives up at least 2 runs, maybe 3 runs to the Astros. And the Red Sox are facing a guy who has not pitched since last year. So we've got a shot for offense here. I'm going over Red Sox Astros over 7.5 here for today. I've been riding the Brewers. I'm not going to stop. The Brewers on the run line. I mean, we have a chance. I think if you're a Cub fan, you're going to hate this because you hate the Brewers and you just think it's, not something you want to pay attention to, not something you want to talk about because it's the Brewers and you're just like, Pirates are going there. Andrew Heaney going, Jose Quintana going for the Brewers. Andrew Heaney on the road's been dreadful. I mean, he's just been dreadful on the road. An ERA over 6. Brewers have been great at home this year. Brewers are 39-20 at home. They're 2-1 up against on the season. They're 4-3 against the Pirates. Last 2 games though have been won on the run line. I'll take a shot even money. The number now has moved to minus to even. No, it's still even money. Milwaukee even money. Brewers on the run line here up against the Pirates. It may be a low-scoring game. Andrew Heaney may be able to keep the bats down a little bit here for the Brewers, but I don't expect much offense from the Pirates coming up here today. We'll take the run line for the Brewers at even money. Prop bet time. Oh, where is that? Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm a little rusty with the location of these stingers. I apologize for that. We'll get to that other one here in a second, but prop bet time for BBB prop bet of the day. I'm going to jump with the Tigers against the White Sox. So Spencer Torkelson had 4 straight games last week in which he scored a run. And the last 2 against the Angels, he didn't score, but 4 straight. I think he bounces back here today against the pitching staff for the White Sox, where I expect the Tigers to score a bunch of runs. So I like Torkelson to get on base. I like him to get a walk, to be in scoring position. I like him to score today, and the price is right at plus 105. We'll take a Tiger shot here. Spencer Torkelson to score a run at plus 105 for that. Okay, time for the Circus Sports Pro Football Story of the day. If you guys are looking to come hang out with us, it was supposed to have been the return of Dave. Now, that's not going to happen. I'm efforting to see Dave and to get a full-fledged update as to everything that's happened while I've been gone. There has been a lot. And the last time I updated you as to what was going to happen with Dave, I had kind of a stunning reaction because Dave had suffered a fall, and that probably was something I should not have said over the air. The family didn't care, and they texted me right before I went on the air, but I was so stunned by that information without having any real knowledge as to what actually happened. I'm hoping to see Dave and to get his side, or the side of the story, to find out what happened, and so I can then get it from him to relay it to you guys. I have been told that everything with the surgery for the cancer treatment and everything they had done with the transplant went well, and that Dave is able to talk, and he is, you can understand him. The fall is now what he's dealing with. For some, it's more of acute than long-term, but I'm going to be having surgery coming up here on September 4th. And there's a decent shot that if Dave is home from the hospital, he's still at a rehab center at the moment, but if Dave is home for the hospital and I can't sit here to do the show because I'm going to be in a sling, I'm having my pec repaired, that we might move the show for a couple of days to Twitter Spaces. And if that happens, I think Dave might be able to join us. So that's my next update as to when I hope to be able to have Dave back as part of BVB. Could be then. So keep your eyes out on that. On the 4th of September, I'm in surgery, so I'm not going to be on the show, obviously. It's the opening of the NFL. Horrific timing. Awful, but it's the only time we can have the surgery done. I'm having it done in New Hampshire with a specialist in New Hampshire. So it's a complicated surgery because of how it happened a while ago. I should have had surgery immediately after I had the torn pec, but now we're 3 months since I did the injury back on June the 11th. So I had the trip coming up and everything else. So I wasn't going to have surgery because I was going to Scotland to see Oasis. I was not going to have my arm in a sling when I did that. So I was going to wait anyway, but now it's made the surgery more complicated. So that September 5th, and then that following Monday, this show very well might be just on Twitter Spaces. And if that happens, I'm hoping that we can get Dave on for a segment or two to have him come back. But with that said, we are doing the Ultimate Football Contest weekend still with our friends at Circa Sports. That is going to be happening coming up here on August the 21st and August the 22nd, live for 2 hours. Looking forward to that coming up next week for everyone at Circa Sports for the Ultimate Football Contest weekend. Millions and Survivor. We are rocketing through rocketing with Survivor. Both guarantees look like they're going to be completed from an overlay perspective, where even the Grantismo, the massive one, is still, it had 11 entries into that thing. If you want more information on how you guys can be a part of the $1,000 football contest with Circa, go to circasports.com. Enter in Nevada. You can hire a proxy and play from anywhere as well. You just have to physically be in the state of Nevada when you do sign up for either contest or both. It's going to be a very fun football year with $15 million up for Circa Survivor, $6 million for Circa Million, and there are multiple ways to win. And as always, no rake to be taken from Circa. Go to circasports.com for more information. If you are a Miami Dolphin fan, do you want to trade your star wideout? Will the Dolphins trade Tyreek Hill? Teams are now monitoring this situation because it may happen. And the team will not get hit with any dead money this year if they did it. Now, it'll be a $20 million hit next year, but they will not have to pay the $10 million salary that Hill would make this year. They'd get out from underneath that. And if you're going to make changes, big changes in Miami, if Mike McDaniels is going to be replaced, and if they're going to either, try to change the offense or maybe move off of Tua and change everything, well, then why not see what's out there and what you could get from a draft perspective or from a player perspective for Tyreek Hill? The natural thought would be to trade him back to Kansas City, right? I mean, that would be the natural thing, but he has done a lot of ill will. He really hasn't ingratiated himself since leaving. It's not been great. So there's a lot of things going on. As Ish said, if I was him, I'd want out too. Players were fighting with each other during a joint practice. That's true. JC from KC, Chief fans, I do not want him back. Interesting. That would be the most logical place to trade him back, though, if he was going to go back. I mean, I'll be very curious to see what is going to happen going forward for this situation, because if it gets really toxic, if you're going to trade him now. Trade him where at least he'll get some reps and practice with whatever quarterback he's going to go play with. If you wait till in season, I mean, good luck. The value is so diminished for Tyreek Hill, but it could be an Antonio Brown type situation. It could get that nasty and that problematic between, the quarterback and the wideout don't like each other, and they can say whatever they want, but they don't like each other. So teams are closely monitoring whether or not the Dolphins will trade, and will Tyreek Hill demand to be traded at some point in time. I'll be very interested to see what team would want to take on. He's a proven talent. There is no debate. The talent is there, but he's also a massive malcontent. He's a major, major problem for the Miami Dolphins and for whatever team that might wind up taking a hold of him. Brigade Proxy story. So I know a lot of you have questions about the Brigade Proxy Service. I'm going to talk about more in bonus time, so stick around. Coming up for that, I'll explain what's happening and what we're going to do. And a bunch of you guys in the chat right now are asking questions about the Brigade Proxy Service. I'll give you more details, so stick around here. Just in 2 minutes on the other side, I'll give you full information. But the AP poll is out. It is easily one of the most worthless things ever. But somebody voted Oregon number one. Somebody voted Georgia number one. I'm sorry, you can't make cases like that. You just can't. Texas, for the first time ever, is ranked number one in the AP poll to start the college football year. That should be, if not unanimous, pretty darn close to being unanimous. Penn State getting 23 votes, nearly as many votes as Texas, is very interesting. People buy into James Franklin hype. I'm not. Penn State above Ohio State, I agree with. But 2-3, yes. Clemson, though, at 4 is wow. Cabe Klubnik better have a great year for Clemson. Georgia, I like Georgia. I'm really high on Georgia. I'm high on the Irish, too. I love their schedule. I'm not that high on Oregon. they got quarterback questions and they got offense questions. And I love Dan Lanning, but they had a tough schedule too. I'm not in love with Oregon. We've talked about their schedule already, but Texas, number one. Yeah, that should be more than 25. That should be in the higher range for overall the number one team in college football. But it's SEC, Big Ten, ACC, SEC, Big Ten. Notre Dame's a Big Ten team. Lot of representation for the Big Ten there in your top 7 for your AP poll preseason. What does it mean? Absolutely nothing. It means completely and totally nuts, except that somebody who is voting Oregon as the top team in the country is either trying to be funny or you're on something. One of the two. Oregon is not the best team in the country. I'm sorry. They're not even close to being. They're not even a top 5 team, in my opinion. So them being number 1 overall, okay. You're going to have to explain that one to me because I don't understand it. You guys are with us live on YouTube or X. Do not move. Bonus time hitting you. If you're on the replay side of things on SiriusXM, channel 159 or Sports Grid Television, thank you for being here. Back tomorrow, same place, same time for BVB. The rest of you guys get bonus time. Okay. Yes, polls really do mean diddly. That's Jimmy Football. Absolutely. They never did anyway. I mean, polls meant nothing anyway. Even in the BCS world, polls made nothing. But now they really mean nothing. Like with the playoff, with a 12-team playoff, now they really mean nothing. Like it's strictly just for talk shows and for fun. And I'm good with that. And like it was stupid to put polls in there. It was dumb to have some type of like impact. Sorry. Normally that's where Dave would talk and I could drink, but unfortunately we can't do that right now. So, I mean, I'm assuming Dave would love this. See Penn State number 2 overall preseason. Are you kidding me? Like, yes, Jeff Benning, I see you. We are folks are jumping up and down. You think this is your year? I hope it's your year. I hope I'm wrong. I just can't trust James Franklin. I think history just has shown us not to trust James Franklin. I mean, I don't know. I don't like Drew Aller. That's my problem too. I love the running backs. I think there's so many incredible, wonderful NFL talented players, NFL caliber players on that defense for Penn State. They're going to be a force. They're going to be fun to watch. The game against Oregon is huge early in the year for Penn State, but I think Ohio State's better. And until further notice, it's still Ohio State's conference, and I think Michigan's better than Penn State. Michigan is 10th. Oh, wait, no, they 14th or 13th. Michigan's out of the top 10, which I was really surprised about. Michigan doesn't play. Michigan plays one team ranked in the preseason top 25. I believe I read that. I believe that's correct, and it's Ohio State. That's it. Or it might be top 10 teams. That's what it is. Michigan only plays one top 10 team. Ohio State. That's it. So Michigan's schedule is the Big 12 that bad? Yes. This year, yes. JC from KC, the Big 12 is way down. It's Kansas State, and they could lose game 1 to Iowa State. So that's the problem for the Big 12. They don't really have a national championship contender unless K-State runs the table. K-State runs the table, win the Big 12, they're in. But outside of that, Okie State, no. Kansas, like Big 12 Baylor is your best hope outside shot type of thing. If Aranda has a big year at Baylor, TCU is not going to be great. Yeah, Big 12 just is not good. It is not good. Chicago, John, Michigan, and Ohio State house. It's going to be hard. Big 10 season at the house. Yep. Agreed. I don't know. I think, and we know how the Michigan-Ohio State game goes. I mean, that's my bet, right? I took the 12-1. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Everyone thinks I'm nuts for taking that Penn State, taking the Michigan to go undefeated. Look at their schedule. I mean, if the Underwood kid plays, I'll have a chance to hedge off it. It's a 12-1. If they're 11-0 going up against Ohio State, you just bet against it. Hedge off of it, guaranteed profit. Or let it ride till halftime and see how the game goes. And maybe you wind up another win and Ryan Day gets fired. Wins the national championship and gets fired the next year because he can't beat Michigan. So this game's at Michigan. Like, okay, with a new quarterback. Good luck. Good luck. It's a home game. That's a home game. Chicago John OSU will win at Michigan this year. Okay, but that's more of a hope, John. Like, you can declare that, but you know in your heart of hearts, you're hoping that's the case. You don't know that's the case. There was once a time when you knew that was going to be the case. Like, you would say that with your whole heart. Ohio State wins at Michigan. Now, come on, man. Let's be fair. You know you're not saying that with your chest. You know you're not proclaiming that, like, put your staff down. You know you got a problem with that game. You know Ryan Day has a problem with that game. That is a massive, massive, massive game for both those teams. But then I have Ohio State to go over 10.5 wins. I bet that. I bet Michigan to win the Big Ten, meaning you got to win the Big Ten title game. Bet them to do that. And then I bet them to go undefeated as well in the regular season, not in the Big Ten title game, regular season to go undefeated. And again, at 12-1, it's possible. I mean, Michigan's schedule is very, very easy until they get to Ohio State. And that game's at home. Must win for Ryan Day. Could you believe that? It's true, but it's so crazy that Ryan Day wins the national championship. And people were like, yeah, but that Michigan game, I don't know. Maryland over 4.5 wins. Okay, you can have that, Eric. All you, big guy. You want to sweat some Terrapin football all year? Enjoy that, my friend. Enjoy that. I'm not one of them to do that. Quick news of the industry for us today. Okay, I touched on a lot of this stuff when we talked to Jeff Edelstein from ingame.com. He missed that interview. Go and check it out earlier in the show. Jeff was great to come on and give us some conversations about ESPN Bet, ESPN and the red zone with the NFL. But the other thing I touched on was the fact that there is a change in Ohio that David Purnham reported from ESPN about the micro betting and prop betting ban that the governor had proposed. Ohio gaming regulators are drafting a rule to ban certain types of micro bets. Again, I'm in favor of this, including the MLB first pitch market. Yep. The proposed ban would be on specific events within games that are completely controlled by one player, not all player props, according to a source. More to come on this, but this is the appropriate thing to do. Like, if we're going to ban anything, ban the prop bet that one guy can control the whole market. Get rid of that. I'm good with it. I'm okay with getting rid of all micro bets, speed pitches, double plays, all of it. Like, get rid of all of it. Baseball, get rid of, anything that one player can control. In golf, in football, get rid of a micro bet like you want to get rid of a kicking prop. I'm okay with that. Like, anytime one individual can control it, get rid of it. I'm good with that. Okay, I'm cool with that. In a lot of pitching props, I mean, people have asked some pretty interesting questions in the wake of this, saying like, okay, what about strikeouts? Like, if a guy has a chance, he's at 7, the prop is 7.5, he can't go over, and then he starts throwing balls or whatever it might be. He just walks guys or he gives up hits or whatever it might be. So it's tough to see what the line's going to be. But generally speaking, I'm in favor of micro bets going away. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's something that we have to have as part of betting. I think it just creates more and more problems going on this. Ish asking a question. I know we're talking football. And by the way, guys, you can always super chat. If you want me to, we're ever doing topics and you want to hop in with something, the way to get me to switch gears and talk about your topic is a super chat. So it's the same rules that was before when it was just Dave and I. It's the same rules with just me. It's, it's to fund the show, keep things going, pay our bills. The bills are all the same. Just because Dave's not here doesn't mean we don't still have the same bills that we have before to pay. But if you ever want me to get on your topic, if you're like, hey, I want this answered, a super chat, $1 can get me talking about it. So just FYI, are we talking about UFC this weekend? I'll be at the event, so I'm pumped for it. Good. I'll get into it. The UFC is one thing that I haven't looked at all, to be frank. I'm operating on like 4 hours of sleep. I'm still on Scotland time. So right now for me, it's 7:00 at night. So I'm just trying to stay awake and power through this day and go to bed at a decent time tonight, trying to get onto West Coast time. So if I can do that tomorrow, we should be good to go. So I'll take a look at some things for the UFC heading into the weekend. So as of right now, I don't know. But yes, at some point I will be getting into the UFC and looking at betting on the UFC coming up here for sure. Coming up for that. Oh, you have no idea how messed up I am at the moment. Super chat for Addison, a 420 spot. Sonic, you're the best. That's really cool. That's very, very cool on that. Yeah. So just to go back quickly, as I told you, I was going to talk about it during bonus time. So today's the 11th, right? We have next Thursday and Friday. So we were about 10 days away from the live shows. It's just going to be me. Now, I don't know anything else besides that in terms of like how this is going to be presented, because someone's talking about Newbie. I have to talk to Newbie about some things. I got to talk to Eric about some things. How and what, and there may be a co-host with me. Like, we're trying to figure everything out because it was supposed to be for Dave. So Dave's not going to be able to come to the live shows. Unfortunately, he's not going to be there. I'm hoping to get in to see Dave tomorrow or Wednesday. There's some questions about when he can be seen at the hospital. So he's been there, and this is not cancer related. So this has been part of the problem. Is it like, my God, he's still in the hospital for cancer? Well, no, he's in the hospital for the fall that he took. And so he's dealing with the aftermath of that. So I hope to be able to get over there and see him and talk to him and kind of get my own account as to what has been happening here in Vegas while I've been gone. The proxy service is either going to be done by us or it's going to be done by one of our friends in the business who's going to do it for us. So you're going to still work with us, but the picks are going to be submitted a different way. They're going to be submitted to a different proxy who we have complete and total trust, because they're going to do the picks for us, because Dave is going to be unable to do it. And I have to go to New Hampshire. Now, you just have somebody physically in Vegas to enter the picks. So my surgery would not have changed much, but it's just another thing that we are dealing with, where I'm on a plane back to New Hampshire on the 1st of September to go and have a pre-op on the 2nd, and then to go have surgery on Thursday, the 4th, which is the start of the NFL season. And then it's like the worst timing of all timing, but I have this window of 90 days that surgery has to be done basically, or the rehab is really difficult. So not to be grotesque or not, but like, I snapped a tendon that runs from my chest, like right here. It goes up and over my shoulder and attaches to my bicep. I snapped that when I fell down the stairs. I snapped that. And I have like a deformity. Like, if you saw me with my shirt off, my chest looks freaky. Like there is an anatomical problem with my chest. It looks weird. Like I have something lacking. It doesn't look right. And so it's because the tendon is actually balled up like in a fist. It's recoiled and it's actually in my chest. So they have to take it and then stretch it back and then suture it and put it back. And then that's got to heal. And then I have to rehab it. Not to be too gross, but the rehab is about 6 to 8 weeks. It's not fun. And so the incision, it's not orthoscopic. The incision is 7 inches. So it's a legitimate opening me up. Like it's opening me up. So yes, this is the anatomy portion of the program. So because of that, to give you guys an idea, because of that, well, I have to go back to a specialist on the East Coast and people that I know, that I want to do this surgery. I don't want it done in Vegas by somebody who I don't know. I want it done by a specialist and someone who knows what the hell they're doing, because my dream is to go play golf again. I have not been able to golf because of my back and now my chest since last August. It's been a year since I've been able to golf. And so my whole motivation of doing the surgery is that I'm 48 years old. Let's get the surgery done. Let's get healthy and let's go and celebrate on my 50th birthday, which is in a year and a half. Go and celebrate somewhere fun. I've just went to Scotland, so I'm not going there, but I want to go on a golf vacation for my 50th. So that's my goal. That's my vision board. That's like, put it up and let's go to rehab every day and let's fight through the pain. But the first thing is going to be the surgery because that 7-inch incision is no damn joke. I've never had a surgery like that. I've had 2 surgeries in my life, and they've both been orthoscopic. One was when my gallbladder got taken out, and the other was on my labrum. This is a real surgery with a real incision. So, and a nasty freaking scar too. That's going to be grotesque to look at. But so that's what I'm dealing with. So that's why we are going to be telling everybody in Jimmy Football, you're asking, how do you go ahead and do this and how do you submit it and everything else? Like, yes, there will be full explanation as to how this is all going to go. We just had to get me back to Vegas. I need to see Dave. I need to talk to him. I've not talked to Dave since the last show he appeared on. That's just the truth. I've texted with Dave a bunch, but I have not spoken to him since he last came on BVB before the surgery. So that was like July or June, like 20th, June 25th, somewhere in that range, right? So it's been a while since I've spoken to Dave. So I'm trying an effort to see him and then be able to kind of get a good idea and a game plan for how we're going to be announcing everything and all the details of all of it. So I'm asking for just a little more time, and hopefully we'll be able to get everything squared away. But yes, the Brigade Proxy Service exists. Yes, we're going to keep going. Yes, we're going to keep doing it, but we're just going to add help. So you're still going to be our customer. You're still going to be able to communicate with us and still be able to work with us. But someone who's here in Vegas is going to be putting in the picks, and you're going to be submitting your picks on their system. More details. I know that's complicated, but more details for that coming up here in a couple of days. So what's up, Pedro? Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being here. Hopefully are cool down in Brazil. Hopefully things are it's your winters. Hopefully you're staying warm down there with that. Favorite thing about today. All right, you got a couple things. One, this t-shirt. I haven't taken it off. I've been wearing it for 48 hours. I got this in Edinburgh on Saturday at the Oasis show. I can't take it off. This hat I got at St. Andrews. So I got the hat there when I was posing there. I went and bought the hat at the pro shop. So I've been to the pro shop at St. Andrews. And then this shirt I bought at Oasis. So those favorite thing about today, I'll wash this at some point, but for right now, I'm still going to bask in the amazing Scottish UK Oasis event that was one of the best nights of my life and was so special and so fun. You know, it's by myself. I went alone. I didn't care. It was so fun. And it was such a cool gift that from Amanda for my birthday. It was one of the nicest gifts I've ever received to have somebody send me to that type of concert in that spot in a country that I have dreamt of seeing Oasis since I was 17 years old, about going over to Europe and going over to England, going over to the UK, going over to Scotland, and to spend time in the birthplace of golf. And the people were so nice. And we stayed at a hotel called the Dalmahoy. And the room we stayed in a couple different rooms. So one of the rooms we stayed in is where President Biden has stayed in when he went over there for a bunch of events. We saw the floating palace for the Queen of England over there. Like, there was just so many cool historical. The Edinburgh Castle is so cool. My daughter got a chance to hold a gigantic, huge owl at the castle, which was a cool little treat, like the highlight for her to go ahead and do that. My kid, for some reason, she really loves the plague. She's very interested in the plague. So like we all did this big tour about the plague and what happened during the plague, the Black Plague outbreak in Edinburgh and whatnot. So it was so fun. So favorite thing about today still is I'm wearing the same clothes I've been wearing for the last 2 days. Same hat, same shirt, everything for the last 2 days. I'm not taking it off yet. At some point today, I'll take it off. But as of right now, I'm not doing that. And then lastly, my kid's a damn champ. I'm so proud of my daughter. My damn kid. Now, she's too big for the little sign thing that you would do, but this kid's working on 4 hours of sleep, comes back and wants to go to her first day of 6th grade. She wouldn't miss it for anything. She was up at 4 o'clock in the morning today on her own at 4 a.m. She couldn't sleep because she was on Scotland time too, which would have been 10 a.m. So she slept in to 10 a.m. You want to call it sleeping in. It was 4 a.m. So I got up at 3 a.m. I've been going since 3. She's been going since 4. And today is her first day of school. It's 110 degrees in Vegas. It is brutally hot, like brutally hot in Vegas. And this kid's like, let's go. Like, let's go. And she's excited to go to school. She's going to crash tomorrow. She'll be miserable tomorrow. But today, for the first day of school, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, big smile on her face, super motivated. The kid had an unbelievable summer. And, you know, change. I'll talk about this summer probably for the rest of her life, about a huge corner that she turned, and just being more of a young person, not so much of a kid anymore, but being her own personality and her own person, and growing up and, you know, trying to learn who she is as a person. This summer was so helpful for her, and she accomplished so many of her goals. And it was just a really, really special time for me and her to be together for as much as we were, and to go on our first overseas trip together, and her getting to see a foreign country for the first time. I mean, I didn't leave North America until I was 48 years old. I went to Canada. I went to Mexico. So I'd been out of the country a bunch, but I had never gone to Jamaica. I had never gone to the UK. And to do both those things at 48, and she gets to go to the UK at age 11, it just opened up so many doors. She wants to go to college now in Europe and everything else. So favorite thing about today is that your kid can just, sometimes they can rally, man. And sometimes when they want to do what they want to do, even when it comes to going to school, they're going to fly 15 hours. We left Edinburgh, Scotland at 1:30 Scottish time. We got to Boston 7 hours later, and then had a 2-hour layover, which then turned into a 5-hour layover as our flight was delayed 3 hours. And then we then flew in to Vegas, and we landed at 10:30 p.m. Pacific time to wait an hour for our bags, to get into an Uber, to come here, to then go to sleep, to then get up 3 hours later because she couldn't sleep, to then turn around and go to her first day of sixth grade. So favorite thing about today is my kid going ahead, and she's going to be exhausted, but she wanted to go today, so I was pretty proud of her for going to school today. Good to be back, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm trying my best to keep this thing rolling. We'll have some more guests, some more fun as we roll here. Football right around the corner. We have Debro this week. We'll get him coming on. We got to get to the AFC. We did the whole NFC. Now we got to do the AFC. We got that. Got a couple of fun cut it out segments coming up this week, as well as a couple of new sponsors who are going to be joining the program as well, with some fun giveaways and cool stuff coming up. So more details on that a little bit later on. You guys can follow the show at Boston versus the Book every single day. Now it's going to be pretty clockwork. 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow for a Tuesday's episode of the Bostonian versus the Book.